we have UFC 268 coming on next weekend, and there's a few good fights on the card. I want to start on the main card, and just go on some fights. I'm not going to name all of them, but there are some fights that you should pay attention to. Now, I'm going to start off with Frankie Edgar versus Marlon Cheeto Vera. Interesting fight at bantamweight. Curious to see what happens. Frankie Edgar coming off of a knockout. Marlon Cheeto Vera coming off of a loss, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. Lau, I know you know, right?
No, he's coming off a decision win.
Off of who?
I don't know the gentleman he beat, but he is coming off a decision win. You guys could look it up.
Okay. Listeners, look it up and tell us in the comments. I think personally that Frankie Edgar is going to take this fight. But that being said, though, he could easily not. Marlon Cheeto Vera, it's going to be interesting. Frankie Edgar is kind of in a weird spot in his career, but, shouts out to both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see. I'll probably be going with Frank Edgar on this fight. But at the end of the day, it should be interesting to see. I think the last fight that he actually fought was earlier this year against Grant. That was the last win that Vera actually had, which was a decision win.
Grant.
So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that fight now. Well, shouts out to both of them.
That Shane Burgos fight, that might be fight of the night. We got two guys that like to walk forward and block punches with their face and block head kicks with their neck. That's a fight that fans should not want to miss. That's not a bathroom break fight at all. So, yeah, Shane Burgos, Billy, Quarantino, Nigel? Yeah. Forgive me if I mispronounced his last name wrong, but that right there. That should be a really good fight.
Yeah, I think
and I'm choosing Shane Burgos to win.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it sounds like it should be pretty interesting. I don't know enough about Shane Burgos' opponent to really come up with a decision in terms of his opponent, but I'll go with Shane Burgos.
The next fight is Justin Gaichi versus Michael Chandler.
What do you guys got on that?
I want Chandler to win. And I want Chandler to win, and I think Chandler can win. This fight is close as a pick'em fight gets, because either man can knock each other out.
That's true.
Either man have proven to be durable fighters, but also either men have been proven that they could get washed early in the fights too. So I think I'm going with Michael Chandler, because I think Michael Chandler, he has the same tools as Justin Gaethje has when it comes to boxing. Same knockout power, knows how to use his range. The only difference between their striking is Justin Gaethje uses a hell of a lot more leg kicks. His leg kicks are a lot more stiffer. Now, the reason why I'm going with Michael Chandler, his wrestling is better than Gaethje's wrestling. Michael Chandler is not afraid to use his wrestling, as he has been using his wrestling in past fights prior to the UFC, i.e., the Eddie Alvarez fights. So what I'm saying is, I think he just has more tools to beat Justin Gaethje. I know the crowd is going for Gaethje because he's a fan favorite. I think this is a fight that favors Michael Chandler. I don't think this is going to a decision, so I'm predicting a second round knockout.
This fight's definitely not going to a decision. I can say that right now. This is probably the easily candidate for fight of the night on this card. I'm going to go with Justin Gaethje because I think his stand-up is slightly better than Michael Chandler's. I think Michael Chandler's stand-up depends a lot on his quick twitch muscles. And I feel like because of that, like he can kind of get in and get out type shit. You know what I mean? I think he depends on being fast and athletic a little bit more. I think Justin Gaethje, I'm not saying either of them are stand-up wizards because they're not, but I think Justin Gaethje's stand-up is just a little bit more spot on, and he's shown that specifically in the Tony Ferguson fight. Now, does he always fight like that? No, he doesn't. But I think that he has the capability to be in the fight, in the stand-up more in this fight.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing for me, and that's why I'm actually going with Michael Chandler, because like you said, he's typically not always, when he fought Tony Ferguson, he doesn't always fight like that.
Right.
And we all know, like he's even said, he's came out candidly and said before, sometimes he can get caught up in the allure of just the standing and banging and really lose sight of a game plan. And I think when it comes to someone like Michael Chandler, who's really like I agree with you both. This fight isn't gonna make it the distance. If it makes it the distance, then I think as fans, we all probably are upset, right? So to me, I think because of that, I think Michael Chandler is gonna bring out that dog out of Justin Gaethje that is just gonna think, hey, I'm gonna just sit and bang. And I think Michael Chandler is gonna get the best of him in that situation. Now, where it ends, I think it may end up ending in the second round. It's very possible that this could very well end in the first, but I'm going with the second round just because there will be a filling out process possibly. But I mean, either way, it's going to be a great fight to watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then I know following that, I believe it's the Rose Namajunas versus Weili Zhang.
I'm going Rose, man. Doug Rose. I'm going with
Zhang
her.
to win.
I know Nigel wants her to win, but he was pretty vocal about it the last fight. So I think Thug Rose wins. I don't think it's a fluke that she beat Zhang Weili. I actually don't like the excuses that Zhang Weili is coming out with.
What's she saying?
Well, the crowd distracted her because of all the
Jesus.
boos and shit. So I have Rose.
Yeah, I'm going with Rose as well. And I say that because, I mean, we've counted Rose out before. People have counted Rose out before, and she's came through with those type, and she's came through and delivered when people doubted her the most. So, yeah, I mean, I was almost about to say doubted her the least. But yeah, so yeah, I got to go with Rose. There's no other way. Now I think Zhang Weili, she'll probably find her way at fighting for a championship eventually down the line again. But right now, I think Rose is just a rose that's the petals of rose have blossomed. You know what I mean? You feel me?
So the main event, the main event has
this is the one.
Lyle's ready for this one. Go ahead and introduce it, Lyle. Go ahead. You're awake now.
This is the prediction.
Kamaru Usman beats Colby Covington for a second time by unanimous decision. And the reason why I say unanimous decision and not by some type of finish is because I believe Colby Covington is a lot tougher than what his detractors say about him. Also, I think that he did show some improvements in the Woolley fight, despite the fact that he fought an old bum, washed up Woolley. What I'm saying by that, if you watch the first fight between Usman and Covington did not have his hands up a lot when he was fighting. He actually fought a lot with his hands down, and he was coming forward with reckless abandonment, leaving him open for counters and a bunch of power shots. So I think he will defend. Now, he's not going to have this improved striking defense where he's slipping punches like a boxer. No, I think he's going to get hit because even the Woolley fight, he got hit. And Woolley's a slow puncher. So I think that Usman is going to hit him enough. I just don't think it's going to be an easier fight than said. Also, I think Covington is going to mix in wrestling this time where he didn't last time. So I think that's going to also make the fight into stretch out the fight longer than the last fight because it's going to be more of a mix-up game. I don't think Covington is going to beat Usman on the feet. I don't think he'll beat him on the ground or in the clinch, but I think he's going to be a lot more game than he was the first fight. But Usman's going to win and retain his status as pound-for-pound king, and he's also going to retain his status as best welterweight in the world, and he's also going to be competing for the greatest welterweight of all time with this win.
Yeah, I mean, at the root of it all, I do agree. I have Usman winning this fight again in this rematch. I don't think there's really anything to question there. I do agree, though, despite what detractors do say, Colby Covington is actually a worthy opponent. A lot of a lot of the reasons why people dislike Kobe Covington is because of the trash talking he does. And a lot of that trash talking he needed to actually get him to the dance because he was doing what he's always been doing, but eyes weren't on him as much until he started taking the Connor gimmick, right? So I do think this fight will more than likely go to a decision. At the earliest, I could only see something probably happening in the 5th round. If either fighter were to discontinue the fight, it would be in the 5th round, just because they're both tough, and as well as like they genuinely don't like each other. So I think it fuels that part as well. But nonetheless, I think this will be an interesting fight. I think Kamaru Usman will actually get the best of Kobe Covington once again. Kobe will probably try to wrestle him, but even then, I think I do believe that Kamaru Usman is preparing for that at the end of the day, because I mean, the first time they fought, it was nothing more than a stand and bang fight for 5 rounds. So, 5 rounds. So like this time around, I think it's going to be like, okay, hey, they could easily roll the mats to the side and say, hey, we're going to stand and bang again. But at the same time, I think Kamaru Usman, as he's elevating his game, he has to also be prepared for, hey, this guy knew he couldn't beat me with the game plan of just sitting there and fighting me. If he tries to sit and wrestle me, I need to be prepared for it. So,
honestly, I think Usman might initiate the wrestling first in the fight, and I think he's going to press forward, not so much where he's going to try to get in a firefight, but to be able to press him against the cage and wear him down, kind of like what he did with Masvidal in that first fight, where he had him against the cage, bro. And then I think like once Kobe starts to get worn down with that, Usman will start turning it up with his boxing, and then eventually, I mean, maybe he might put him away, but I think that I see this fight being competitive the first 2 rounds, and from the 3rd round to the end, I think Usman takes it home.
Yeah, I mean, that actually helps though. If he were to actually come out and start wrestling, initiate the wrestling, that probably will take away some of Kobe's confidence as well.
Yeah.
I have Usman by 4th round TKO. I think that he's going to, like y'all said, essentially come in and use his wrestling. Well, I think that the ground game will be more involved in the fight no matter who initiates it. But I think that because of that, I think that will leave for openings for Kamaru Usman, who I think has the better stand-up to get some type of TKO in the 4th round. Whether that be on the ground and pound, or on the feet standing up. I just think I don't think the fight isn't competitive, because Kobe Covington can fight no matter what anybody has to say about him or how he is. He is the guy that's up to fight Kamaru Usman. I'm not mad at it. I think that he has the skills to stay in there with him, but I think if you're talking about a faster pace with more ground involved, I think that that just leaves for openings for when the person who is less skilled to be more open for targets for the person who's more skilled, being Kamaru Usman.
Right. No, I definitely agree there. I think at some point those openings will show, and someone like Kamaru Usman, who's at that championship level, that at the end of the day, when you're the champion, people are preparing to fight you based on what they last saw, and you're trying to get better than what your last performance was. So I think in that space, he probably will end up having to turn up at some point, definitely in the latter parts of those rounds where you'll be able to actually see those gaps. But at the same time, Kobe's not a slouch. Like he's got a lot of heart. He's got a lot of heart, even if he's tired. So
yeah, he does. And the thing that's concerning me about the fight is how much damage is not damage, but how many strikes is Usman going to absorb? Because for anybody that actually watch these fights and pay attention to Kamaru Usman, the guy doesn't utilize head movement that well.
He gets hit,
and his striking defense isn't the best. So even though that his boxing has got better and he does have knockout power, hopefully Trevor Whitman has cleaned up his defense as well when it comes to striking. Because Kobe might not have that knockout blow, but over time, volume does create damage. Look at Deontay Wilder. Look at let's bring it back to MMA. Look at Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler. Nick Diaz was getting punched out to the point where he's like, yo, I had it coming. Like he couldn't fucking withstand any more punishment. So hopefully Usman has that part of his game cleaned up. Like, hey, I need to move my head a little more, and make sure my hands up are a little more, because Kobe, he's going to keep coming. Well, however he is, he's going to keep coming until you make him not come anymore.
Right. Until you take him out essentially with the TKO or some type of finish.
Yeah, so, them foot stomps, man.
He's practicing.
Yo, listen,
man.
He
was practicing.
So let me I'm getting this boy up out of here one way or another, man. But I think nonetheless, I do think 268 is going to be an interesting card to watch overall. For listeners that are listening to this on the day that the episode comes out, or prior to Saturday, this fight UFC 268 will be on the 5th, I believe.
Yes.
On the 5th of November. So that this Saturday. So in just 2 more days.
6.
So make sure. Well, the 6th, my bad. Yeah, November 6th. So it'll be in 2 more days. So make sure you get a chance to watch it if you can. And if not, because I know it's a pay-per-view event, hey, hopefully you had a chance to watch 267 because it wasn't a pay-per-view event. So that was also free for the listeners if they do want to take a chance to listen to it. So
go to a bar, grab some friends, get together, or, find another way.
Yeah, exactly. Before we get out of here,